One of the most important things that you can do to advance your own jazz piano performance skills is to learn and practice the solos from other players, especially pros. Hey, it's Tobey here from JazzMentl.com. Thanks for joining me for another one of my tutorials. It's been a big subject of conversation on the YouTube channel and on Facebook, this whole concept of transcriptions. How easy are they to do? How can I get my hands on one? Is it important to learn them? And the answer that you're looking for all of those questions is going to be in this video. Now, the reason why we're doing it is because people have asked me to transcribe many of my jazz piano performances, not just from YouTube, but also from the Facebook channel. And I've been resisting those requests quite a bit because it's super time consuming. So in this video, I'd like to kind of focus on some of the techniques that I use to transcribe to make the process a little bit easier. By the time you finish this video, you'll have a very clear indication of how I go about transcribing my own solos and how I can make the process for you a little bit easier. In this video, I'm transcribing one of my own solos that I played directly into the software called Reaper, which is this software, and it creates MIDI note events. So for example, if we play this, you'll hear the bass drums and piano, and you'll see the timeline move when I press play. So this is the tune, But Not For Me, and I've had several requests to actually transcribe this and turn it into sheet music. So at first I did try a MIDI dump, and it would take a ton of time to correct all of that snarled fishing line mess. I think the best way to go about this is to do it bar by bar. Now, if you're thinking, hey, I really need to transcribe an entire phrase, it's kind of hard to do that because you can't hear every note and remember every note as it's being played. So let's just take this one bar. Now I'm just hitting the space bar and stopping when the bar is finished. Now the good thing about this particular software, which is again Reaper, and this is the MIDI editor in Reaper. So if you right click on this gray area at the top, and you go down to View under Piano Roll Notes, you can actually click Show Note Names on Notes. And what that does is that shows you that this particular note is E5. If I hit it with my cursor, you can hear it play. But also when you hover your cursor over things, you can see that the actual piano roll notes play in the left-hand column. You'll also notice that these notes are not exactly on the timeline. So for example, if you look at this F5 here, if we moved it over to this line here, which is the grid lines, that would be beat 2.5. Whereas where it sits right now, depending on the quantization, if it's like 1/32 or whatever, and you're trying to pick up triplets, it's gonna just notate that all wrong. Plus, then there's the note values. Take a look at these notes over here. They're super short. They'll get notated as maybe 16th notes, whereas you would have to extend them like this in order to get them to show as 8th notes. And of course, they don't all start at the same time. So lining up all of this and doing quantization and then exporting, I don't think it's the best idea, especially when you're talking about swing like this. Let's play it one more time. So it's swing, ba-boo-doo, ba-doo-doo-doo, and notating swing through MIDI dump is really difficult to do. All right, so now that I've given you some of the harder points of it, let's maybe take a look at what we can do to enter this music into the notation software. So I think the best thing to do is maybe take it a few notes at a time. Listen to the entire bar and listen to the rhythm and look at where the rhythm maybe lines up on the page. So you've got 8 notes, and it starts on E5. And the rhythm was. So those are all 8th notes. Yes, they're swing 8th notes. If it was straight 8s, it would be like this. But it's like this. Now, of course, even if it's swing, you need to notate it as straight 8s in your notation software. So let's jump over there right now. Okay, so here we are in Finale. It's one of the more advanced notation software programs. I'm not going to go through all the details on how to actually use it. If you want some tutorials on how to use Finale, I'm more than willing to do those. You just have to write that in the comments below, and maybe we'll make another poll asking people whether that would be valuable information. What I do want you to hear is that I've already transcribed the first chorus, and we'll just start around here. And I've set the swing values to 75. So even though it's notated as eighth notes straight, it's going to be playing a little bit of swing. Now, it's not completely going to be amazing swing, but at least you get the idea that if you've notated things correctly. So let's just play it from this B flat 7 sharp 9. So these first two bars of chorus 2. And then we're at bar 68 in the transcription. Let's go back to Reaper. And just before we go any further in this video, if you like tutorials like this one, just go down to the comments below and say, hey, can you talk more specifically about this particular process or that particular request for video? That would really help us out here at the channel. And while you're down there, click the little like and subscribe button and maybe even the little bell, and we'll notify you of all the upcoming videos that we're making. Thanks in advance for doing that. I really appreciate it. And play it one more time. So let's remind ourselves of what we're playing. So those are all eighth notes. Go back to the Finale software and let's enter those notes using what we call speedy entry mode. So basically what you're doing is you're holding down a note and using numbers to do the note durations. In this case, eighth notes are the number 4. So I'm just going to press the note and then hit the number 4, and it puts in an eighth note. So that's how quickly you can notate in Finale. And then what we can do is work on the left hand, comping before we move to the next bar. So let's just go back to Reaper and listen to the bar again. So you can see these notes down here are the comping. And the easiest way to notate those is to see where they line up with the notes in the melody. I think that's pretty obvious. So these ones over here, they'll line up with the E5 on beat 1. So you can see C4, F3, and E3. So that's this note, and this note. So it's pretty easy to pick out notes using these MIDI note values. It's much more difficult to listen to an audio recording and pick out left-hand comping. So if you can get your hands on a MIDI transcription, it'll make the process quite a lot easier. So we've got this on beat 1. So let's go back to Finale and enter that on beat 1. So you've got an eighth note, which is pretty much the duration that we saw. So we're going to put that here in the bass, eighth note. And then let's just put an eighth note rest. And what'll happen is when we leave the software, it'll fill in the rest of the bar. But we can fix that in a moment when we go get the next one, which will be this one, D4, A sharp 3, and A3. Now you can get some ideas of what these chords are from the chords that are in the transcription already. So to me, that looks like some kind of B major 7th chord or even a G minor 9 chord. But it's on beat 2.5. Let's jump back to Finale and put that in beat 2.5 for an eighth note. So we'll delete these and then beat 2.5 here. And then again, it'll fill the rest of the bar in with this half note. Now you could probably do it a little faster than this. I'm going slowly because I'm explaining it. Let's play it again because I'm not exactly sure where these notes line up, whether it's this one or what I meant to play when I was playing the tune. Because when you're playing a transcription, especially on a keyboard, it's not always going to be accurate, so it's hard to tell. So it sounds like beat 3 exactly. Yeah, so it's when it's going to this F5 here, these notes would typically line up more like there. Let's move them over and let's see what it sounds like when they're lined up properly. Yeah, so it doesn't sound a lot different, which makes it more accurate. And then we're going to go back to finale and write in A3, A sharp 3, D4, which is the same as before. So we've got 5 for a quarter note rest, and then an 8th note. Hit the 4, and then that bar is done. And then what I like to do is just play that bar and maybe a few bars before it, like this. Okay, you can hear the solo is just kind of building up. One of the things I notice is that the chord symbols are missing from those few bars. So let's just go and copy the chord symbols from the previous chorus, which starts way back here. And then we're going to zoom back in and go to the bar in question. So it starts on a G7 sharp 5 chord, goes to G minor 7, then C7 flat 9. And then goes to this B flat major 7th chord here, which makes sense because if you take a look at this voicing, these definitely represent B flat major 7. And at this point, I'd just like to throw it out there that if you are a good transcriber and you are looking for a challenge, I could really use somebody on my team because I get literally hundreds of requests for my transcriptions, entire solos, heads in, heads out, because I'm constantly improvising. And I get those requests on YouTube and on the Facebook Jazz Pianist group. So I really don't have the time that it takes to transcribe everything. So if you're looking for a challenge, it is a paid position. We will discuss what that is. But if you're up for the challenge, just reach out to us on the YouTube channel here or in the comments below. And I look forward to hearing from you. And that is pretty much how I go about the transcription process. Now, of course, if all you have is a video recording or an audio recording, it's going to make the process quite a bit more difficult because with the Midi, we're seeing what the note values are, where they are in the approximate measure, and also what their value is, because sometimes it's hard to hear. Are we talking about an A4 or a D4 or whatever? So it's important to have that Midi if you can get your hands on it. And of course, if you're trying to make transcriptions of your own performances, this is probably the easiest way to go about it. If you have any questions about today's tutorial and you want to make some comments, please do that in the comments below this video. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're looking for the finished transcription of this performance of But Not For Me, the tune that we've been working on in this video, I'm going to post a link to that to download it up here in the corner. You can go check that out. And if you're looking for the tutorial on this performance of But Not For Me, which talks about the transcription, you can see that in this YouTube video.